Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, good night, wherever you are watching this in the world. Hello from Portman Road. It's a big one today, isn't it? Ipswich Town hosting league leaders. Can we call them runaway league leaders? Coventry City here at Portman Road in a game that has all sorts of narrative, dripping with narrative, isn't it? Really, when you look at this game. Ipswich, obviously, as we've discussed a lot, not in the strongest position that they have been. This is a team that entered the campaign as title favourites, and they're coming up against the team that has replaced them as title favourites. And you know what? Fair play to Coventry, understandably so. So they're currently, let me do my maths on this, 7 points, I believe, clear at the top of the championship table as Ipswich players come out here for the warm-ups. 7 points clear at the top of the table. That is with a game in hand on the team beneath them, which is which is Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough won 4-1 against Hull last night. I watched some of that game, and Borough just absolutely blew Hull City away. So they are the closest challengers to a Coventry team that have only lost once all season in the league. That defeat's coming away at Wrexham. They lost the game 3-2. Other than that, it's a pretty astonishing record. 18 games played, 13 won, just 4 draws. They've scored 50 goals and conceded 18 to the tune of a plus 32 goal difference in, at the start of December, which is pretty remarkable. And that's what a lot of people were expecting of Ipswich. Ipswich, of course, who could have moved, I believe, up to around second in the last week or so had they taken the points that they would have wanted, which would have been maximum. It didn't happen. They've taken 3 from a win at Hull. They didn't take any from the trip to Oxford, where they lost that game 2-1, and then ended up snatching a point at the death at Ewood Park against Portman Road. With that one ending 1-1, Cinderella Igeli off the mark in that game, which leaves Ipswich seventh in the championship table. And they are still, when you check with the bookies, they are just about the favourites to go and win this game. Obviously, home advantage will play a part in that, but they are the favourites to get a result here and to deliver another blow to Coventry, even though I think that most people would probably expect that Coventry will come to Portman Road and win today, given kind of the differing moods in the camps. But when the chips are down, the Ipswich team in the past has been able to rally together and get results. Can they do that again today? We're going to talk through the team news. It's 5 changes. It feels quite drastic when you say 5 changes, but we're reverting back to the team that were beaten at Oxford just over a week ago. A week yesterday it would have been. Should I bring up my snazzy team sheet, which I'm kind of just about holding down in the wind? There we go. Here's your Ipswich Town team sheet. So let's run through it. Christian Walton starting in goal. Actually, you know what? I've got the banner. Here you go. The banner. Christian Walton starting in goal. The back line, Furlong, O'Shea, Kiprate and Davis. So 1 change from the draw at Blackburn in that one, which sees Furlong coming back in at right back for Ashley Young. The midfield 2 stays the same. Azul Matasiwa and Jack Taylor playing in midfield. No space for Jens Yustu, made his return from injury in the Blackburn draw in midweek. And then a front 4 totally rotated again, which will see Cinderella Igeli starting after his goal, as I mentioned, at Ewood Park. Marcelino Nunez in the 10, Jaden Philogene on the left, and George Hurst up front. The substitutes, David Button, Jens Kayusta, Ashley Young, Casey McAteer, the returning Sam Smodics, Jacob Greaves, Chuba Akpom, even Azon, and Jack Clark. The Coventry team then. Now, we've had a little bit of a debate around what Coventry are going to look like. I'm not convinced it's going to be what I'm going to show on the graphic, but this is what one of the commentary reporters in the press lounge reckons it could be. Commentary in orange today. Snazzy. Those of you who might have gone to the last game against Coventry in the FA Cup might remember they played a special third, fourth kit or whatever. I think it was a really good cause, but we could not see the numbers at all, and it was really, really difficult. So hopefully a little bit easier for this one in their orange kit today. 3-4-2-1 is kind of what's been hinted at here. It's just the one change, which sees Kane Kessler-Hayden coming in, formerly of Aston Villa. He joined Coventry from Aston Villa over the summer. He'd previously been at Preston, where he'd done really well. And it was kind of seen as an interesting one where I think he was brought in to replace Milan van Ewijk, and Milan van Ewijk opted to stay in the end amid some interest from elsewhere in Europe. So both of those starting today. Not too sure how many times we've seen that happen. How's that going to look? Well, out drops Victor Torp. Torp is not on the bench, so we can only assume it's going to be injury related with him. It could be a 3-4-2-1, as I put on the graphic here, which would see Rushworth, formerly linked, of course, to Ipswich. I think it's quite widely understood that Carl Rushworth was someone that Ipswich were keen on bringing in ahead of the Premier League season. They ended up getting Aaron Muric instead. Then a back three is kind of what's been mentioned. That would see Milan van Ewijk playing the right-sided centre-back role. Again, not totally sure that's where he's going to end up, but we'll just run with it in this case. Van Ewijk alongside Bobby Thomas and Kitching, Liam Kitching. I don't know why I put Kitchin. That's embarrassing. Kitching, not Kitchen. I think I might have done that on my phone and it's auto-corrected through. The midfield two then being Eccles and Grimes. Either side of the wing-backs, Kessler, Hayden and De Silva. Eccles has played in a more advanced role in their win against Charlton last week, and Grimes a really shrewd operator at this level. And then a front three with Rudoni just off the right, probably playing quite a narrow right-sided role. Ephron, Mason Clark on the left, and Ellis Sims, very widely understood to have been an Ipswich Town target in the past, leading the line. Hasn't had the opportunities, Ephron Mason Clark, not Ephron Mason Clark, sorry, Ellis Sims, and that partially comes of Haji Wright being out injured. He's had a hip injury. He is back today for the first time after being out for, I believe it's 4 games he'd missed. So he comes onto the bench, the United States international striker, who has World Cup aspirations, of course. He comes back, he'll be the big threat off the bench. There are a couple of big names missing for Coventry City. One of them, Brandon Thomas Asante, still the top scorer in the Championship with 10 goals alongside Carlton Morris. So a big blow for him not to be fit. Would have gone to AFCON, I think. But he doesn't get that opportunity and doesn't get the opportunity to be fit in a really busy and crucial winter run for Coventry City. And alongside that, we've also going to be without Sakamoto, Tatsu Sakamoto, who picked up a head injury a little while ago. He's still under concussion protocol, I believe. I think he's been quite keen to play, but that left Coventry with a little bit of a void on the right side. So lacking attacking options, but the depth they've got is quite impressive when you look at being able to bring in Ellis Sims and Ephron Mason Clark, players of that ilk, really solid, if not top players at Championship level. Look at Ellis Sims, for example. He scored 5 goals in his last 3 games. I believe it's braces in his last 2. Which shows how good and how strong he is and what his form is at the moment. What you probably will see in the difference when you look at the 2 squads, though, is you'd say Ipswich have the better bench. You'd say that Ipswich have the stronger attacking options to play as substitutes. When you look through at Coventry, I believe they've got 2 goalkeepers on the bench. Coventry, Jamie Allen is quite a good threat when you look at the way that he drives towards the midfield. Haji Wright is what he is with his goal returns and how impressive he is when he leads the line. And then the others, Jake Bidwell, Joel Latabodier, Luke Wolfenden, of course, the returning Luke Wolfenden, all defensive players, all centre-backs, all full-backs. And then they've also got Miguel Angel Brau, what a name, who I believe is a left-back, and young Kai Andrews, the midfielder. Whereas you compare that to Ipswich, it's Casey McAteer. I know he hasn't pulled up any trees, but still, it's... pardon me, Sam Smodics, it's Shuba Akpom, former Golden Boot winner. They've got 2 good former Golden Boot winners on the bench here at Ipswich Town, along with Even Azon, along with Jack Clark. It is one of the strongest benches on paper in the Championship. Obviously, it hasn't really panned out that way in terms of what we've seen from Ipswich in the last few weeks. I've got a comment here from Freddie Smith. Going to get smashed, so I'm going for a 5-1. One-check McKenna doesn't know any other system other than 4-2-3-1 and the constant changes. It's an interesting point, though. I think it's a little strong, personally. But let's talk about changes and let's talk about systems a little bit as well. In terms of the 4-2-3-1, I understand that there is some concern around the way that the Ipswich plays it getting a little bit stale. My question mark then becomes, what's the alternative? A 4-4-2. There's a reason that not many teams play a 4-4-2, because ultimately it's, and I know that it kind of feels like a back to basics routine. It feels a little bit Mike Bassett in the manager, doesn't it? But the reason that we don't see it is because it can be a really open formation where teams can pierce through you quite easily. You look at Watford, who've taken it on, and I think that fans aren't really that happy with it in terms of how it's kind of impacted their results and fitting players into the system. I don't think it works playing two up top necessarily. With Ipswich, then the alternative is you can go to a back three or a back five, but then will that get criticised for being negative by fans, for example, if you're playing three centre-backs? It probably would be by some and not by others. So the happy medium is what they've got, and ultimately it's a formation that is the most popular for a reason. It's a formation that has been the most affected under Kieran McKenna for a reason. And if you suddenly start tearing things up and going from the start again, then you're having to start the process of working through things all over. And this squad is doing enough adapting as it is, let's be perfectly honest. In terms of the constant changes, this is something that I addressed in the week. I wrote a piece on this that went up on Thursday, looking at kind of the number of changes that we've had, how that works with building chemistry, with keeping players fit in a busy period, and what the strongest team would be. Now, what you've kind of seen in the last week, let's just take that, and I understand that there's a bigger picture to this, and I'm looking kind of in a microcosm of the season in the last week. You've had a game on the Friday. On the Friday night, I believe Ipswich played pretty much their strongest possible team, barring maybe one, and they've reverted to that one today. They lost that game last week at Oxford, of course, when I thought they played their strongest team, lost that game 2-1 to Oxford United. And then you kind of look on the flip side, they go to Blackburn. They've essentially rested and rotated. Casey McAteer's come in, even Azon's come in, Chuba Akpom's come in. These aren't players that will start, but they're also players that you don't want to kind of run too close into the ground. They're players who might have come in with injury or fitness issues in the past as well. So it's a hard balance to find in that sense. But we do come to a point, especially now, where the games are a bit more spread out. We go Saturday, we have a game here on Wednesday against Stoke, and then off to Leicester next weekend. Then a full week going into Sheffield Wednesday before Boxing Day against Millwall, before the 29th away at Coventry, and then that game is, New Year's Day is, Oxford at home, and then I think we go to Pompey after that. So the games come thick and fast. There's been a lot of travelling. It's been heavy. And you can understand that maybe if you're a Jens Kiyusta, who understandably has a lot of fitness issues, and we've seen that he struggles maybe with the intensity of these kind of regular games, that playing him in that entire run and starting him is going to be a risk. The same with Marcelino Nunez, who we know has played just over 50% of, or started just over 50% of games when he was at Norwich, and had a lot of people saying, well, he's injury prone and things like that. You don't want to lose Marcelino Nunez, so you have to also be careful when you use him. And the same with George Hurst. They're key players in this system. Now, for me, it's a double-edged sword, essentially, where you also have to be able to rely on the players that come in. You look at the players that started on Tuesday night. Casey McAteer, I know, is underperformed, but he's also a player that Ipswich deemed good enough to spend £11.5 million on. Now, whether or not that's a good investment or not, I still think, and I know it will be a controversial opinion, I still think it's too early to be able to say that. We've seen plenty of really good Ipswich players who did not adapt at all at the start and have gone on to develop to become good players. But he's not stepping up to the plate at the moment. Chuba Akpom is a former Golden Boot winner. They fought really hard, Ipswich, to beat Birmingham to the punch to sign him on loan from Ajax. It's not working for him. He's not doing well enough at the moment. Even Azon, I love him. He's great. He's working off scraps. Can he do more? Should he do more? Yeah, I think so as well. There are other players, I've singled out three there. There are others who need to be able to step up when called upon to start games when you're into busy periods. It's not like you're bringing in kind of bargain basement, scraping the barrel players. These are good guys These are talented football players who have delivered in other systems, in other teams, and have even delivered at times at Portman Road, but they have to be able to come into teams, come into games, and be able to deliver. And now it's the task as well of what I see as the strongest team, which is the one they played here today, pretty much, I'd say, maybe by one or two positions, to also now start delivering, because they didn't necessarily last week when they played Oxford. A frustrating game in a lot of ways, but have to be able to do better than that and beat, with all due respect to Oxford, a team down at the bottom end of the championship table. Michael Brown, where is Roscoe? Roscoe, you know what? He's probably somewhere in the press lounge having a hot chocolate. When it gets to, you know what? I'll let you in on a little bit of Ross chat. To be perfectly honest, Ross is big on his hot chocolates any time of the year. Summer, hot chocolate. Winter, hot chocolate. But winter's when it's socially acceptable, isn't it? So I'd imagine he's currently stocking up on one. I'm very confident he'll have another one before the end of the game. I'm just going to bring up a little point as well on this Coventry team. There's been debates on what the system's going to be. We can see warming up in front of us that Coventry are playing a back four with Milan van Ewijk in that right-sided, the right-back role, essentially. So I think that Van Ewijk is going to play at right-back, and it's going to be Kate Kester-Hayden further forward. It will be 4-2-3-1 against 4-2-3-1. And that becomes a really interesting... Why are you up there? A really interesting tactical battle. Because of the fact that you've essentially got two right-backs on one side. So, A, you can double up on Jaden Philogene, and B, you can then expose gaps left behind Leif Davis, who's going to want to bomb up that flank. Two players who can get up and down on that side. So that's how I think that will shape up. Got another one from Michael. McKenna like to tinker with his team lineup. Maybe it's because he's sport for choice. Essentially, I think that is kind of the point. If you had so many options and so many games, then naturally you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to rotate. You're going to want to give players opportunities, especially when others aren't performing. You don't necessarily come out of that game against Oxford, where I know McKenna said that they played quite well, but say, oh, you know what? Player XYZ, they've deserved another shot because they lost to Oxford. You go into a game a few days later against Blackburn, and then you're looking at, well, who do I give an opportunity to? Who do I have come in to ensure that I keep Marcelino Nunez fresh and I keep George Hurst fresh? You do have to use rotation. You can't go week in, week out using the same squad. And this is where I think you have to find a happy medium, to be honest, where has the rotation been too extreme? In my eyes, yes. But you can't just go week in, week out and playing the same starting lineup and running players into the ground, because then we'll get into the end of the festive period and, oh, hang on, 3 or 4 of the starters in the best team are out injured, because there are players in this team who have those kind of issues. Horse Hollerer, I love your name. I love your comments. We saw one of those. We put one of your comments in the chat recently, and I did say I was a big fan of yours, Horse Hollerer. Please come to KOA Live. We'd love to meet you. Afternoon all. Anything could happen today. Depends on what sort of response we get. This is a big point, isn't it? Where coming out of that game against Oxford and going into the Blackburn game, Kieran McKenna had spoken after the Blackburn game and said, actually, I don't think that the response in training was what I wanted to see. It wasn't good enough. Defeats are rocking this team too much. And we were seconds away from having another defeat in midweek and coming into this one, an incredibly tough fixture off the back of 2 consecutive defeats, which would have been really difficult from a mental perspective, especially then when you're trying to raise the crowd at home and try and turn things, because the top of this table is up for grabs. My God, if we've got some of the teams who are kind of in the promotion mix, again, I don't want to disrespect any teams, but the heavy hitters mostly are in the table and lingering lower. You want to be the team that's up there, because sooner or later, the likes of, I'm not saying this will happen 100%, but I don't think that Hull are going to be sustainably in the top 6. I'm not convinced by Stoke. Even Middlesbrough, for example, have their weaknesses that they've shown, whereas I think teams like Birmingham and like Southampton, I'd say, maybe not Leicester, although I know they've got a good win last time I checked, at least, they are going to surge towards the top of the table. So, yeah, make sure that before they can do that, get yourself in that mix, give yourself the advantage. You have a buffer, a cushion on these teams. Make the most of it. Mike Brown, Alex, do you like Roscoe? Love the scran food that the clubs lay out for the media. It's just, do I like Ross? Yes, I do like Ross. Is it that, like Ross, I love the food they put out? Also, yes. We had that really nice beef massaman. Stu's never had a beef massaman before today, so that was a new one for him. Yeah. Here we go. Got one from Paul. Pasting on the cards, sorry. Fair enough, Paul. I can understand the feeling behind that because Coventry are a really good football team. They put 7 goals past QPR in a 7-1 win. So I rattle out some of the scores. I feel like I need to actually get them up on my phone if my internet will load. They've had some brilliant score lines though. So I think they put 4 past Millwall. They put 4 past Middlesbrough. They've been really, really good, haven't they? Let's be perfectly honest. They're in exceptional shape and they score for fun. I think it's 14 in the last 5, 50 so far this season, which is ridiculous. They're a really, really strong team, a really strong unit, and they give me the same vibes as what we saw from Ipswich in 23-24, a team that's cohesively built week after week, I suppose, year on year. They've not sold, they've not really signed that many, but when they've signed, they've been really shrewd and really careful with the way that they've done it. And what you get is a really strong team now after so many years of being in the Championship and being close to the FA Cup final previously. They're a good old football team. I'm going to do one more here from Michael as well. With Middlesbrough winning last night, it's vital that Ipswich Town don't lose further ground on the top 2 or the playoffs might be the best bet. Yeah, that's ultimately true, and that's a fair point. Middlesbrough at the moment are 8 points clear. They've obviously played a game more, so you need to make sure you're within touching distance of these teams because Ipswich have a tough run. They've got to go to Coventry again later this month. They've got Sheffield United next month. They've got other teams that will hopefully in the mix. Millwall on Boxing Day. Tough old fixtures, and you can't offer other teams the opportunity to create a gap because then you're coming into April, May, even March a little bit earlier, and you've got a lot of catching up to do. But there you go. We're going to do one last team sheet run through. 5 changes for Ipswich Town. Christian Walton in goal. Right back, Darnell Furlong, who comes in for Ashley Young, plays at the back alongside Dara O'Shea, Cedric Kiprain, Leeds Davis, Azul Matasiwa, Jack Taylor remain in midfield, Cinderella Igeli, Marcelino Nunez, Jaden Philogene and George Hurst make up a fully rotated front 4. Back to the team that played and unfortunately lost at Oxford. Will it be a different story this time? Thank you for joining me. If you're not subscribed, go and check out our latest offer. Stu's running the live blog. That's subscribers only for today, so go and check that one out for this big game if you're not here. If you are here, enjoy it. We're going to be posting lots of content afterwards. We've got KOA Live as well coming up in it's 2 weeks today, actually. Wow. After the Sheffield Wednesday game. We're down at the Bath in Ipswich. Bars open late. We're going to be talking all things Ipswich Town, wherever we're at that point in the campaign. Come and join us at the Bath 2 weeks' time. We would love to see you there. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy the game. We'll see you on the other side.